Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you two alternatives to using a click track. We're going to be looking at click track alternatives today, but before we dive in, if you are ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the thing for you. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the guesswork and without any more of the hassle. It is a completely free guide, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in here and talk about getting rid of click tracks. First of all, why do we need a click track? So if you're building out a song, you need a click track, to keep you in time if you want your song to be built out together, especially if you're sending it to different musicians, right? If you're doing kind of tele-recording, right? You're cutting a track, sending it to a different musician. It helps to have a click track in there to keep everybody in time while they're recording, especially if there aren't drums in the track yet. So if you do guitars, then bass, then keys, and then you bring in your drummer, it helps to have something there to keep you in time as you're tracking. It's easier if you have the whole band to just turn off the click track and just vibe as a group, but if you don't, if you need something to keep you in time, the click track is there to set you, keep you even, and to keep you on the grid in a sense. We're not gridding the song, but it's something to help you stay in time and to stay even throughout your track. Now, there are disadvantages to having your click track on, and the biggest one is that it sounds absolutely terrible. So if I hit play here with the click track going, it's pretty obtrusive, and it's pretty irritating to listen to. Now, I'll be the first to admit here, I do like using a click track. So when I'm recording, if I'm cutting a track on keys, I like hearing the click track blasting into my headphones. It helps me stay in time, and it helps me stay even across the track so I'm not shifting in tempo or BPM all the way across the track. I like hearing it really loud in my headphones, but a lot of musicians don't. It can be harmful to the creative process, and it can distract them from playing their part or getting their groove down. So today we're going to talk about two alternatives to blasting a click track into your in-ears. So instead of just turning it down, maybe they get faster, they start veering away from the click track because you turned it down so much or because it's distracting to their creative intentions on the song. There's a couple other ways you can get this going. So the first is if you're cutting your scratch track, only have the click on during your scratch track. Don't have it up too loud, have it at a loud enough volume that you can hear it while you're cutting your scratch and that you can stay in time with it. Don't blast it like I do into my ears, but don't have it too quiet that you play over it, right? So have it loud enough that you can hear it and stay in time with it. Get a good scratch track down. So whether that's your guitar or a keyboard track, cut your one scratch track to the click and then turn it off. So you have a scratch track that everybody else can play to, that is in time, that stays pretty close to the grid lines so everybody can play with it and it keeps everybody in time, but nobody else has to listen to the click. So what that would be like is if we mute everything else here, so bass and our drums, we have our one scratch track that we would cut to the click, so it sounds something like this. And then after you cut your scratch track, make sure it's good enough in time. If you need to listen through with the click again, make sure there's no parts where you veer off time. Then turn off your click and have everybody else cut to just that scratch track. So that way nobody else has to listen to the click. So if the drummer doesn't want to hear that click in their headphones, if the bass player is not digging the sound of the click, they can just cut to the scratch track. So you can cut your other guitar, cut your bass, and cut your drums to the original scratch track. So here are the raw recordings for this song so far. So this is a way you can aid or get rid of the click for other musicians in the group. If you're cutting the scratch track and you aren't, too hateful of the click, you can have it on while you cut your scratch track. Make sure it's in time, make sure it's even throughout tempo-wise, and then everybody else can just cut to your scratch track without having to hear the click in their headphones. Now, if you don't want to hear the click, right, if that's, harming your creative process because you're hearing this click, 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 just blaring into your headphones, or even if you just don't want to hear it at all, you need something more natural. If you're used to playing to a drummer, used to playing to a bass player, this is something you can do to aid you in that aspect of it. So if you're cutting your scratch track here and you don't want to hear a click track, something you can do, if we go into the loop section here inside of Studio One, all we'll do is we'll pull in just a kick drum. So if we kick, probably don't want a hip hop kick. So that's good enough. So all you would do is you take one of these kicks here, or even if you would just record a piece of your drum kit, right? Just have the drummer hit the kick a couple times, take one of the samples, take your transient, put it right on the grid, and then all you have to do is make that your click track. So we have our nice little kick here. We can put it right on the grid if we want, and then just duplicate it all the way through. So now instead of having to hear a click, 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 we can hear a drummer hitting the kick drum all the way through, right? So it's something a little bit more natural than having to hear that pretty harsh click track, beating into your skull. You can hear something that you're a little bit more used to. So now we have something like this. So that's a little bit more natural, a little bit more warm and pleasing sounding to the ear than that click track, just that harsh percussion instrument, just boof, boof, boof. That's something that can hinder your creative process, right? If you're trying to vibe with the track, trying to get your part down, put some emotion into it, if you're just hearing this click, 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 that can keep you a little bit too robotic sounding. This here feels a little bit more natural. It's like having a drummer play the beat out for you as you're playing your initial track. So you'd have something like this, and then you could cut your scratch guitar to it. And again, you can set this level anywhere you want. If it's so if it's too loud and that boom's getting in your head, just pull it down a little bit. Just leave it loud enough that it'll keep you in time as you're tracking. Then you can pull in your other guitar, pull in your bass, pull in your drums as well. And then once you have your drums in, you really don't need this anymore because you'll have your drums there to keep you in time, right? So with each instrument you add into the recording this way, you'll need less and less of the click. So you add in your second guitar, pull the click back, or this kick back a little bit, add in your bass, pull the kick back a little bit. Then you add in your drums. You really don't need this kick there anymore because the drums are there to keep you in time. So these are two alternatives you can use rather than putting a click track in, for every musician. Maybe try just having it on your scratch track. So just cutting your scratch guitar to the click track and then cut the rest of your instruments to the scratch track rather than to the click track there. But if you do need something to keep you in time while you're recording your scratch track and you don't want to hear that click drum, you don't want to hear that percussion hit blaring into your headphones, just beating into your skull, hindering your creative process, hindering your vibe, try something like this. pull in a kick drum, whether it's a sample from your loop library in your DAW, or whether you want to record your kick drum from your drummer and just have that underneath while you're cutting your lead guitar or your rhythm guitar here. Something a little bit more natural and a little bit more warm and inviting than that harsh click track to keep you in time and to keep you even tempo-wise throughout your track. I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that gave you some interesting things to try during your next recording. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you are ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the thing for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and you can download it below to start creating more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.